도로제
Good morning, everyone. Good evening, everyone, wherever you are participating. Some of you probably still very early, and some of you very late. So this is the city of modern technology that is allowing all of us from all over the place to be gathered together for something virtuous and beneficial, which is today we have once again Khenchen Rinpoche to give us teachings on some of the materials found in the collected works of Kyobpa Jigten Sumgön. The collected works of Kyobpa Jigten Sumgön, the general collection, consists of 12 volumes, just to give you a sense of what's all there. So these teachings that Rinpoche has been doing for the last couple of weeks, and this is the third and the final of this series, the equivalent is often the Tibetan pages, maybe 2 pages, 3 pages for each of the teaching. So each volume is about this thick, and there are 12 volumes. So that's the magnitude of how much there is in the collected works. Beyond the collected works of Kyobpa Rinpoche, there are still more, also Kyobpa Rinpoche, but not included in the 12 volumes. But just thinking about the 12 volumes, there is so much more that Kyobpa Rinpoche taught in his life. So anyway, we are very fortunate to have Rinpoche teaching from this collection. So far, very few, if ever, these teachings from the collected works are taught in the way that Rinpoche has been teaching us. So I am very personally very grateful to be able to help facilitate this set of teachings. So as I said, today is the last of this series, but not the last. I hope that we will hear Rinpoche teaching from this collection. In terms of the effort to translate this, just a very small project to translate these teachings. The translations are going on. Right now we have about 30 of these short texts translated. The team of translators are continuing on their work, but because they don't work full-time for us, we cannot afford them full-time, so they have other obligations that they have to attend to. So they are chugging along, doing as much as they can. But if we have the conditions in the future to fully employ them for full-time, then we can speed up the 12 volumes. Of course, the material, as they say, is getting harder and harder for them to translate. Often, once you have translated some, it gets easier, but in this case, it's getting harder for them. But again, this is some of the unique characteristics of Kyobpa Rinpoche's teachings. I have talked to some others, some Khenpos in the lineage about this set of materials, and some of them have expressed that because Kyobpa Rinpoche is speaking from his direct experience and not from theory, a theory that is repeated a lot. And of course, theory is very important, of course, no doubt. But if you are teaching from theory, because it's repeated so much, so then it's easy for modern translators to translate teachings that are primarily arising from reading about theory. But because Kyobpa Rinpoche taught directly from his experience, directly gave what the recipient needed, so the format is not so predictable. So then it makes the text not so easy to understand, both in the sense of the style, then of course also in the sense of the profundity of what is being said. So then in terms of the profundity of what is being said, again, we're very fortunate. We have someone like Kenjin Rinpoche, who basically spent all his life trying to understand more and more of Kyobpa Rinpoche's unique way of, of clarifying everything that the Buddha taught. So we're most fortunate to have someone like Kenjin Rinpoche unpacking, as I would like to say, these texts for us. But anyway, we still, as I say, aspire and hope that even though 12 volumes seems impossible, maybe within our lifetime to have all translated, but if causes and conditions come together for us to, make this project move faster, of course, that is always good. But fast cannot come at the expense of accuracy in really catching the meaning, at least on the surface level that is able to capture. And so anyway, I want to thank all of you for participating in these teachings. And so we're going to begin, as always, with the opening recitations. And if I can get a volunteer to read the English from page 1 to page 2 one time, if you can volunteer to read out loud for us. In case it's not obvious, if you volunteer, you have to put your, tell me who you, put your hand up, because I have muted all of you. So I have to give permission to unmute you. I have no choice to mute all of you, because sometimes those of you who are using your phone, it's very easy to unmute yourself accidentally, and you don't realize that, and then we get to hear everything that is going on at your house, whether you want it or not, or whether you know it or not. So if you can raise your hand to volunteer, there's a digital raising of hand as well. If you can raise your hand and I'll catch who you are, then I will unmute you. Somebody, quickly, don't be shy. Maybe I'm not seeing you. Oh, okay. Lamang Yedun. I will unmute you. And you have to do something to participate in being unmuted. Oh, wonderful. You have unmuted. And so we will have you read page 1 and 2.
Okay, good morning, everybody. All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness, be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious awakening. Thus, until I achieve awakening, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until awakening is reached. By the merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and mute you now. And so now we will do the recitation in Tibetan. And as I have explained last time, I will briefly do this again. The reason why we are also chanting in Tibetan is not, at least for me, it's not because I think, inherently Tibetan language is sacred or holy. Buddha did not accept, kind of such positions. So then the reason why I think it's still good for us to chant in Tibetan, one reason is looking back into the past, is to remember the kindness of the Tibetan people and how much they sacrificed and how much they gave up in order to receive all these teachings and then further elaborate on these teachings all these centuries, and that this is where we are receiving the transmission from. So we have to look back with gratitude to all that has been done for us. Then looking forward with aspiration, so that we get a taste of the Tibetan language, and may that be a seed that will be planted in us, so that we, in direct or indirect ways, can participate in the translation of these teachings into other languages, whatever those languages may be. So may this chanting in Tibetan plant a seed, whether direct seed that will bear fruit this lifetime or in future lifetimes, because as you can see, there's a lot of work to be done in terms of translating this into other languages. So some of you might not be aware, we're not able to chant all together by unmuting because it will create feedback, one reason. And second reason, there's a lag of about a minute with the current technology, so that it's still not yet possible to chant together. So we have to mute everyone and just listen to one person chant. Dala Tawa Jibe Nobar Jibe Gek Tarba Dan Tamje Gembe Bardu Jobra Jeba Tam Chegiz Jibe Ma Lankadang Nyambe Zenjen Tamje Dewa Dan Den Dungyao Dander Nerdu Lana Mepa Yang Tabara Zube Janju Rimpoje Tobra Dala Tawa Jibe Dra Nobar Jibe Ge Tarba Dan Tamje Gembe Bardu Jobra Jeba Tam Jegi Su Jibe Ma Nankadang Nyambe Zenjen Tamje Dewa Dan Den Dungyao Dandre Nerdu Lana Meba Yang Tabra Zobe Janju Rimpoje Tobra Dala Tawa Jibe Dra Nobar Jibe Ge Tarba Dan Tamje Gembe Bardu Jobra Jeba Tam Jegi Su Jibe Ma Nankadang Nyambe Zenjen Tamje Dewa Dan Den Dungyao Dandre Nerdu Lana Meba Yang Dabra Zobe Janju Rimpoje Tobra De Sama Gegi Bardu Longa Yizum Gewala Ko Mashi Bardu Longa Yizum Gewala Ko De Dering Ne Zunde Nima Santa Samgi Bardu Longa Yizum Gewala Ko Jodan Zogi Junam La Chanju Bardu Dane Gyabzu Je Dage Jinzo Gebe Zonangi Drola Benchir Zanje Drubra Ju Zanje Jodan Zogi Junam La Chanju Bardu Dane Gyabzu Je Dage Jinzo Gebe Zonangi Drola Benchir Zanje Drubra Ju Zanje Jodan Zogi Junam La Chanju Bardu Dane Gyabzu Je Dage Jinzu Gibe Zonangi Drola Benjer Zanje Drubru Ju Mana Kadang Nyampe Senchen Tamje Dewa Dan Dewen Gindan Tembra Gyurji Dungao dang dungao gi gyu dang zhawa gyu ji. Dungao me be dewa dang me dewa gyu ji. Ne ring cha dang ni dang zhawa. Tang nyang la ne bro gyu ji. Ma nang ka dang nyang be. Sen chen tam je dewa dang de wen gen dang den bro gyu ji. Dungao dang dungao gi gyu dang zhawa gyu ji. Dungao me be dewa dang me dewa gyu ji. Ne ring cha dang ni dang zhawa. Tang nyang la ne bro gyu ji. Ma nang ka dang nyang be. Sen chen tam je dewa dang de wen gen dang den bro gyu ji. Dungao dang dungao gi gyu dang dewa gyu ji. Dungao me pe dewa dang me dewa gyu ji. Ni ring cha dang ni dang dewa. Tang nyang la ne bro gyu ji. And next is the offering of the mandala and the request for the teachings to be given. This ground sprinkled with scented waters and strewn with flowers, adorned with the supreme mountain, far continent, sun and moon, I hold in mind as a Buddha land and offer it. May all wandering beings experience such a pure land. To all gurus thoroughly complete with the three kayas, I offer these outer, inner, secret, and thusness offerings. Together with my body, wealth, and the entirety of phenomenal existence, please grant the unsurpassed supreme attainment. Whatever slight virtue that may have been gathered through prostrating, offering, confessing, rejoicing, requesting, and beseeching, I now dedicate to complete awakening. Om Guru Deva Dhagini Rana Mandala Pratitya Soha. Please turn the wheel of Dharma of the greater, lesser, and common vehicles in accordance with the dispositions and mental capacities of sentient beings. Zoji buju juji medo cha rira linjin inde genpa sanje shinla mingde buwa ye drogo namda shindu chobara shu guzo yonzo lame zonam la jinang zangzu deshin niki ju dalu longju nangzi yongje la Lame jogi ngudu tsedu su jase wadan chujing shangpa dan jesu yirang kujing sowa ye gewa jungse dagi jisakpa tamche sope chanchu shirngu om guru deva dharkini rena mendala Pradeja so zemjen amge sambada loye jida jidrava jejun thumon tepai jogi golo gordu so. Good morning, Rinpoche.
Morning and good evening, everybody. Very nice to see you again. Now, as Dr. Hanlai introduced, today we're touching on the special topic. It's called on not being mistaken in viewing this illusory mirror of mind. That's the text we're using. It's just very short. Now, many of you have exposed to the Dharma teachings for many years, studying, practicing. So we who are participating in this, and everybody, we all desire for peace and happiness that we have discussed. Nobody desire for suffering. So universally, no, it is how that constituted. Having said that, we all first cultivate such a altruistic thought. I will study and practice this teaching to free from samsara and to achieve complete enlightenment. So that's our all focus. We should do that, because just reflect this life, before anything else. The day you remember your life in this world, went to school or anything, from that day, we all are looking for some peace and happiness, to have some kind of better life. When we encounter obstacles, problems, suffering, how much we wish to free from that suffering, how much we make effort to do that. So this is whatever we do in our life, this is how we involve our life. But up until now, just look, just reflect. We have not achieved any substantial peace and happiness. We have not achieved any substantial to free from suffering. So that's the reality, nature of the samsara. No matter what we involve in any field, business, politics, modern technologies, communication, internet, we spend our whole time these days looking at the internet, at your iPhone or iPad, watching the news, so forth. But we don't find absolute solution of the suffering. All are done very temporary, but it repeats one after another. So, as I mentioned quite a few times, Buddha taught the Dharma teachings over 2,600 years ago, the complete teachings to free from entire samsara and to achieve perfect enlightenment, Buddhahood. Doesn't matter whatever it takes time, but that's our goal. So our goal of Dharma study, practice is to achieve ultimate goal, to free from entire suffering, delusion, and to achieve the absolute peace and happiness. So when we study, practice Dharma, this should be our focus, because we are connecting our mind to the Buddhahood. As I mentioned a few times, we all desire for peace and happiness. Not only human beings, even animals, small insects, who knows nothing, yet a desire for peace and happiness, looking for better life, better place to live. It's because of the Buddha nature, the seed of the enlightenment. So we are fully adorned. Our mind is fully occupied by that Buddha nature, but it is such that occupied or covered by our mental delusion. It's called adventitious obscurations. So our study, practice, Dharma teaching is to uncover, remove these adventitious defilements, obscurations, and just bring out what your reality nature is about. Because in the samsara, even though how much we achieve through our work, like say politics, business, whatever you do, that doesn't give us full satisfaction. Still we're working. Still we're working so hard. That shows that our full nature of the mind is not fully revealed. Once, when we achieve the Buddhahood, then you see there's nothing to go further. And we achieve the full satisfaction, the full peace. So it's called free from elaboration. It's called ultimate achievement. So that's why our study, practice of Buddha's teaching is not something we are believing something, or we are not dogmatized by something else. No, rather this is based on our wisdom, reason. So we need such mental capacity to have that wisdom to capture the purpose of our study and practice the Dharma teachings. That's why I hear this one on not being mistaken in viewing this illusory mirror of mind. So mind, everybody has only one mind each. So whether we're in the samsara, with that mind, whether we're enlightened, achieve Buddhahood, that's the mind. But sometimes when we mistaken how to view the mind, look at the mind, when the mind is deluded by the mental obscurations, then we can't get out of the suffering. Like see the fly likes all the dirty place, you see, and the fly enjoys that kind of place. And we say the fly brings all the bad bacterial sickness. We can't fly let in the house, So that kind of, you see. In the samsara, when our mind is fully within in the delusion, then we think something, we think that's right, and we're so attracted. And then we never come out of this suffering. Where we're complaining, suffering continues. So this is our way how to see the Buddha's teaching. We need such a great wisdom. There's called afflicted wisdom and unafflicted wisdom. Afflicted wisdom is the mind is fully occupied by all the delusions, but very smart, creating many things, but cannot get out of this suffering. We are trapped in the suffering, no matter what we do. The unafflicted wisdom mind can perceive the root cause of suffering. And then we undo, not involved with this cause of suffering. So that's why we need such wisdom. We need such a conviction that wisdom, the unafflicted wisdom, allow us to see the pernicious nature of the samsara, the mental afflictions. So I will read verse by verse, and then I'll try to explain what do I know. But as introduced, these teachings are so profound, even though they're very short, but very profound. Some scholars can write a huge text in this kind of text, short. But Lord Jigten Sungkun has such a great wisdom, enlightened wisdom, and give the teachings to the disciples very precise, clear. All the meanings are contained there, the profundities contained there. And he gave those teachings and asked the disciples, now go to retreat, meditate, reveal yourself. Because, as I mentioned, everything is interdependent. We need such a great teacher who can give us such kind of this profound, enlightened nature of the teaching. And then disciple needs the responsibility to digest these teachings and bring into the being and reveal your own nature of the mind. So Buddha is not far away. Sometimes we think Buddha is somewhere out there, but Buddha is within. If we can reveal our own mind is the Buddha, if we can see the face. But we need a wisdom to see that nature. So these teachings are key, to open the door to see the face, the Buddha. So now here he said, Namo Radna Guru, so it's paying homage. This is Jesus was given to a disciple, and then he wrote down what he received from. So he's paying homage to his guru. Now this has a lot of meaning to explain, but it's okay. When the victorious protector Amitabha, now Amitabha, I think everybody knows Amitabha. Amitabha is Nirmana Kaya, and Amitabha is Sambhoga Kaya. Also same thing, it's the same nature. That says became a Buddhist one before he became. So Amitabha is a Buddha. Before he achieved the Buddhahood, once he was a Bodhisattva. Gelong Chogi June, Bhikkhu Dhammakara. In the Pure Land of Perfection, the world system of Sukhavati, everything arose by the power of the intention, conditioned by the mind. Don't be discouraged, or don't be small mind or yogi. So Lord Jesus is giving the example of Buddha Amitabha. Buddha Amitabha, first, he was not Buddha. He was ordinary person. And then he cultivated bodhicitta and became a bodhisattva and trained himself on the way, developing the bodhicitta. Because of wisdom and because of his great compassion, he saw the nature of the samsara. The samsara has an immense suffering. The sufferings are endless. Every day we're thinking how I should be happy today. All the time. Even in the human beings, our human life is much better than like animals. So that bodhisattva, not just human beings, but animals, God realms, hungry ghosts, hell realms, perceived precisely, clearly, without hidden. And he was overwhelmed by the suffering of the sentient beings. So with seeing this, he was thinking how I can help the sentient beings. So these sentient beings, even before they become Buddha, they need such a kind of environment, some peace and happiness. And then they study, practice Dharma, attain the enlightenment. So he developed such a mind. So I need to cultivate such a mind to create a pure land, Buddha field, so that sentient beings can reborn there and then study, practice Dharma. So that is Sukhavati, you see, the Sukhavati Devajan is such an environment, a place that sentient beings can reborn there with, of course, all the causes and conditions, is required. Anyhow, that bodhisattva cultivated that mind, and through the causes and conditions, looking at the suffering of the sentient beings, looking at his own bodhicitta, the mind, and then once he's perfected his accumulation of merit and wisdom, and purified all his obscurations, and then such place that he, through his practice, he created such pure land. So many sentient beings are reborn there, and they receive teachings, study, practice, and there they can achieve Buddhahood. So it is not something created by us without cause and conditions. It is something that with such a great mind, the mind that connected to all the sentient beings, no limit. Like you see, space has no limit. Like no space has a limit, no limit. Likewise, we have to have such kind of a mind. So, Jigdosum is giving such a great example so that we can follow the path easily. So he said, don't be discouraged. Don't be a small mind. Make the mind as big as the space, as profound as the space. So everybody has a space there to breathe peace and happiness. So look at that, meditate on this. So it's our own mind, you see. We have to have make that kind of mind. Because the mind itself, we cannot see it because there's no color. We cannot touch because there's no form. No. When you look around through the machine, very sophisticated machine, if you use, we cannot see the mind. No. So nowadays, the great scientists, they are puzzled, They don't know how to handle the mind. There is something, but cannot see it. They are frustrated, They want to get all this information about the mind through the machine. They cannot find it. So they come to the brain, said brain is the mind. So brain is the one. They put point here, there, right, left, here. But mind is more than that, you see. It's a conscious. It's a consciousness. No limit. Oh. Look at our own mind. When mental afflictions are powerful, strong, and we feel we are in the hell realm. We don't know what to do, how to handle that. But then, if that changes, if there's some sense of peace, happiness, you feel so light. You see, your very mind, sometimes you're so upset, angry, very destructive. Not only others, even yourself. Look at that mind. And then suddenly you have studied the Dharma, reflect and remind Dharma, the wisdom. And if you know how to handle that, and that kind of say the creativity, the power of that, it disappears. It disappears nowhere, but it disappears. At that moment, you are a totally different person. You are all a source of peace, happiness, you see. That's your mind, see. This is not just a belief. That's reality. So seeing that nature, we study, practice the Dharma teaching. It's not because I believe it, but it's because we know it. That makes sense. So everybody, actually I should say, everybody needs this kind of method, wisdom, but everybody don't have it. Only some people. That's what's called precious human life. You see, the individuals who has leisure, endowments, and mentally equipped to see that nature. This is also interdependent, interconnected. We did something good this life, other lifetime. So because of that, we got this opportunity. So here what I'm saying is the mind, how powerful your mind is. In the good side and in the negative side, but it's your mind. That's that's why it's called the two sides of coin. A coin, one coin is two sides. So your one mind, how it makes the difference. So you can see it makes sense. if we reduce all the mental afflictions and develop all the positives, it's the habit. We have to change the habit, you see. That very, as I mentioned, very negative mind, very destructive your mind. If you look at it, it exists nowhere. It's just display of your mind. So it manifested from our habit. So we need to change the habit. You see, it manifests from emptiness. See, because there's no special place that exists. From emptiness, it manifests, and then dissolves into emptiness. But that's what's called mindfulness, meditation practice. We purify these habits every day. Like we eat, we need to eat, drink. This is how we have to practice. Not as just as a special religious training. Also, all the good habits, positive habits. No, this also is habit. When we more train in that, practice that, these habits manifest easily. No? So that's called meditation practice. So like this, when Buddha, Amitabha or Amitabha, when he was as the Bodhisattva, through his great bodhicitta, mental power, he created Sukhavati, Devajan, the Pure Land. And so many sentient beings got the benefit, you know. So that's what is here is saying about. Okay. So now next is, so what I was talking about is how negative mind, how samsara is created, you see. All sentient beings of the three realms, so three realms is the realm of the kama dhatu, desire world, form world, formless world, the three realms, cycle about helplessly. That cycle within the cause and it's called mental affliction, karma, and suffering. This, the three: mental affliction, and the karma, and the suffering. Cycle about helplessly in the ocean of endless suffering. Due to being mistaken in the way of the viewing their mind, this mirror of illusion. So don't be proud. Don't be so proud, O yogi. So this say now, you see, just as I mentioned, nobody has created hell realm, hungry ghost, or animals, but due to our mental afflictions. Not only physically born in the hell realm, hungry ghost, animal, but look at it in our daily life, in the mind. Just as I mentioned, when there's such a destructive mental afflictions, you feel like hell realm. And physically there's a lot of pain. Then sometimes we take painkillers. Sometimes we feel like tortured, physically, mentally. It's because of our mental affliction. It's the result of our collection of the mental confusion. This, we all have this. That's the saying, viewing their mind. So this kind, due to being mistaken in the way of the viewing their mind, this mirror of illusion. See, our mind is just illusion. It's all temporary, you know. Look at your mind. One moment you feel good, next moment you don't feel good. Or one moment you have compassion, next moment we have anger, hatred. Look at this. Everything so instant, indefinite, changing, moment to moment. That's what's called illusory nature. We can't avoid it. It's just because it's within us. We cannot say this is bad. We cannot say this is good. It's just a play of our habit. But if we have a wisdom, such a wisdom, when these things happen, even there's a pain, you have such a great opportunity. This pain, through the wisdom, a proper wisdom, then we can see the pain. So, oh, this pain I have is due to my result of my negative karma. I purify and make that as a special instrument. This pain that I have, how much pain I have, how much suffering is there. So all the sentient beings who have this kind of pain, they are going through that kind of suffering. Some have more pain, some have less pain. Look at this. And there gives us a great opportunity to develop great compassion due to that wisdom. So as I mentioned, wisdom is very important to see things right, especially insight. So then develop great compassion. Those all the sentient beings who are going through. So I must practice bodhicitta. May all the suffering of these sentient beings be purified by this my small suffering. So you just feel my suffering that I have is worthwhile to exercise my mind, to practice my bodhicitta, to develop greater, more. You see, so our Dhamma study, practice, as I mentioned, is not just a religious training. It's the way, a method, how to free from suffering. That is not from in the outside, but within, in our own mind. How to know how to relate to our mind. So the Buddha's wisdom is such a profound, it's such a critical insight. It gives us such opportunity to see things how they constitute. So Buddha's teaching is not just only today or tomorrow or this life, but we need life after life until we become Buddha. This teaching should remain in the world for all the sentient beings. So now, due to this, technologies, this way of this technology is so good, everybody can have the opportunity to see, get chance, to to reflect on this. So it's a very good side of the technology. So we take that kind of opportunity and take the advantage of this and appreciate, see. So anyhow, the mind is, is the one that we all take this kind of responsibility. First, it gives such great wisdom, and then dedicate yourself. So that's why Lord Jigten, he asked his disciples, not just receive the teaching and wander here and there, but he said, now you receive the teaching, put into practice. You should get benefit from this teaching. To get the benefit from this teaching, put into practice. Wherever you are, any place in the mountain, on the plain, in the monastery, in the solitude, wherever. So first look at the suffering of the samsara. Cultivate this bodhicitta and make the understand yourself. So I say, don't be so proud, means don't be so proud of our samsaric achievement. In the samsara, we may be very famous, rich, successful here and there, but it's all impermanent, changing, But make the proud of your mind, developing these good qualities. So that's the reflecting on the samsara and practicing the meditation. Next is to some sanja tamje korda nyangen debecho sangeni su masikte tamje toba maber shis. Now next is said, all the Buddhas of the three times do not view as good or bad the phenomena of samsara and nirvana, but instead pacify them into the state of simplicity. So that's the one, you see. So Buddha of the three times, as I earlier mentioned, is not in first place they are Buddha. First they are like us, They struggled like us in the samsara, in the confusion, in the suffering. Somehow, then through many causes and conditions, they met authentic spiritual masters who gave these instructions, or they received these instructions from these authentic spiritual masters. And they follow the path step by step. And they became Buddha. So this is what he's saying here. He's saying, do not view as good or bad the phenomena of samsara and nirvana. This is very important. Just I mentioned, you see, when our mind is totally confused, bewildered into the delusion, and we suffer helplessly. But that moment, the wisdom of these teachings, just say everything is manifestation of your mind. Look at your mind. Where are these delusions? Can you see them? Then you don't see them. We need a wisdom eye to see this, the non-existent nature of these delusions. When we have that power of that wisdom, the eye, which can see the non-existence of the delusion. See? So the moment we are so deluded, we are helplessly struggling our survival, suffering. The moment when you have that wisdom, that very nature of the delusion exists nowhere. You see? That's why it says nothing is good or bad. We just need a wisdom eye to see this. See? Just as I mentioned, sometimes we physically have such a pain, torturing pain. But when you have wisdom eye, that very pain, it's like a hell realm. It can give you a joy. So this may purify all the suffering of sentient beings. This may purify my negative karma. I'm so fortunate I have the wisdom of the Buddha. Allow me to see this not as a torturing, but as an ornament of the bodhicitta practice. So see, that's what it's called. Do not view as a good or bad. But when we don't have the wisdom, of course, then samsara is painful. Say, the phenomenon of samsara is painful. The nirvana is wonderful. You know? So we have to reduce our ego, as earlier mentioned. Ego is part of the mental affliction. In the first place, there's no ego exists. It's a notion. It's a habit. No. We should replace the ego by bodhicitta. Sometimes people may think without ego that how you can work, how you can accomplish all your projects, but you can accomplish your project with the bodhicitta. I practice Dharma teaching not just only for myself, but for all the sentient beings' benefit. I have to study hard to get the good degree so that I can help others more effectively. You see? So there you don't need ego to accomplish the projects we have. We can replace the ego by the bodhicitta and developed. And the mind has more capabilities, courage, wisdom, and more spacious. See, without wisdom, without the compassion, the ego is very narrow. No? You may be successful in many things, but the mind is very narrow, no space. So it tortures not only others, but it tortures yourself so much. Because there's no space. You cannot acknowledge your mistake because you are ego. No? You cannot acknowledge others' good deed because there's competition. When there's a bodhisattva's mind, bodhicitta, then you see there's no space for this negative or narrow ego, self-cherishing. It has a space for every sentient beings. You appreciate all this good and bad. When there's some negative things happens, no, it is a very great opportunity. What kind of mistake I made from this? Because of what kind of mistake I made to happen this? How should I improve this better? So it's not a bad thing, it is something good. When there are some things happen good, instead of being proud, attached to it, you appreciate and you inspire, encourage, do better. So that's what we're saying here. Do not view as good or bad the phenomena of samsara and nirvana. But instead, pacify them into the state of simplicity. Everything is within the framework of emptiness. Everything manifests from emptiness. See? So we have to have such a wisdom to see that. See? So that wisdom, see, is within us. Nobody can grant this wisdom. Even Buddha cannot give us this wisdom. Only he can teach, explain to us, but we have to have our own ability to capture this. So that's why we should inspire ourselves. I have every opportunity to manifest this wisdom. I have every kind of ability to do this. Then you see, that wisdom is a source of peace and happiness. See, we're not attached to peace and happiness, but we appreciate. As earlier mentioned, when the suffering comes, it's opportunity. It's opportunity to avoid cause of suffering. It's opportunity to develop wisdom, to see the causality, nature of all phenomena. So it's called simplicity. Another word is called free from elaboration. Free from elaboration means look at the space. Look at in the sky, space. There's nothing to elaborate. It is so simple. So all are within that nature. Because of this space, everything manifests from this space. Look at all the planets, galaxies, stars. They all manifest from this space, dissolve into the space. So like that, look at the mind, all these thoughts, one after another, manifests from the emptiness and dissolves into the emptiness, dissolve into the mind itself. So look at this, we just meditate, reflect to ourselves. We need a lot of purification. We need to more we purify, and then our mind's more clear. You can see it makes more sense. If the mind is fully occupied, our delusions, sometimes it doesn't make sense. if some people tell these things, they say it doesn't make sense, because we have no merit to capture this profound meaning. So causality is such important point. Okay, then next what is said, the perfect benefit of oneself and others is all within one's own mind. Don't fall into wrong view or yogi. So now this is also very profound, you see. Rashi Rangden Shimdu Punsoba Tamja Ranga Sambai Lobrmata Nejurpa. So this kind of practice now, bodhicitta, seeing everything as is free from the liberation, emptiness. Yet at the same time, everything manifests from emptiness, means causality. As I mentioned, before a few times, the causality, the role of the karma, good or bad, Some people say Buddhists believe karma. No. So it's just they think like it's a belief system. It's not really thing exist. But this is reality, natural. That's why everybody is making effort, working hard for their life, at least, They get up so early in the morning. Sometimes they have no time to eat. See, they're working so hard because practically they know everything is in the framework of the causality, So Buddha explains this so precisely, not just role of the karma, everything to function, to build a house. We need a builder. A builder knows how to build the house. And we need architects who can draw all those things. See how much you require. It's interdependent. A chef, nowadays they are special chef, isn't it? Who makes a delicious meal. So they need such a great skill. It's all interdependent. So Buddha was so expert in this interdependent. So, just example, you see, without the milk, there's no butter, But if you ask, the milk is the butter? What would you say? Milk is not the butter. But without the milk, no butter. You see? Now you ask if the butter is the milk? No, it's butter. That butter is come from the milk. But milk is not the butter, and butter is not the milk, you see. So that's called interdependent. It's a reflection of the causality. Like the moon's reflection in the lake. If you ask in the lake, the moon is in the lake, you say, no, it's not, that's not the moon, but it's the moon's reflection. Without the moon in the sky, there will be no reflection in the lake. So all things happening in our life is a reflection of the cause that they have created. It's amazing, you see. We need such a precise wisdom, special insight to penetrate these reality nature. So having said that, it shows everything is within in the emptiness. So there's no separation. It's all the manifestation of the causality and emptiness. There's no separation. It's inseparable. That's why you have heard many times, non-duality. See? So that helps to purify all our mental afflictions, the attachment, anger, pride, jealousy, so forth. There's nothing to jealous about. Everything is just a manifestation. There's nothing to be proud about. Everything is just a reflection. That brings the peace in the mind, see? The peace is coming from that. Otherwise, no matter how much we pray, chant mantra, may I have the peace, may I have the peace, may I have the peace, you know. Peace may not come anyway, you know. But if you make the condition, cause, then that itself is the peace. That's why from the Four Noble Truths, Buddha said, you should know the suffering and avoid the cause of suffering. See, that's it now. Buddha's teaching is, see, there is no somebody is coming down to you, you know, say, I bestow you this and that. That's why Buddha said, don't rely on person, rely on the Dharma. You know that? Don't rely on the person, but rely on the Dharma. Don't rely on the word, but rely on the meaning. See? Then Buddha said, don't rely on the relative, but rely on the ultimate. Don't rely on the consciousness, but rely on the wisdom, primordial wisdom. See, this is called four reliances. It's very important. Sometimes we are so much dependent on the individual person, attached to them, you know. They come and go, but we have to practice the Dharma. So Buddha taught so precisely. That's why when we say we take refuge in the Buddha, means not the person of the Buddha, but Buddha's wisdom, the enlightenment, Dharmakaya. We take refuge in the Dharma. Sangha, the realized being, the enlightened nature of the wisdom, not the individuals. See. When we get sick, you may go to such a great doctor who can tell you all the problems precisely, but the doctor cannot help you to free from pain. The doctor will prescribe, say, take this medicine, and you have to rely on the medicine, not the doctor, you see. See, this is how it is important. So, we should, what here saying is, no, don't fall into wrong views don't be mistake yourself. No, samsara is something bad. Nirvana is something good. It's duality. Without samsara, there's no nirvana. Without these mental afflictions, there's no wisdom. The wisdom lies within this mental affliction. No? The mental affliction which tortures you, that very mental affliction itself is nothing but wisdom. Having said that, but we need wisdom to see that reality nature. Without the wisdom, especially insight, I cannot say my mental affliction is a wisdom because it's torturing me, you know. But if I have the wisdom to see that my very mental affliction itself is nothing but wisdom, because it's wisdom means empty. This mental affliction itself is empty. It's just a habit. It just manifests from emptiness. If I have wisdom to see that, then you say, I don't seek a wisdom somewhere else. So that's where compassion, loving kindness, bodhicitta are just such a special instrument. No? Then we have to have the wisdom to realize everything is emptiness, as mentioned, you know. Without emptiness means realizing the nature of the wisdom. All other practices are good, but they cannot help us to uproot our delusion. So we need all those methods, step by step. All this. Okay, then next. Loparmata, Nejurpa. Okay. Tanze tope zamadir, chiwa mepe, duzil, chok, dunyi nintu tanga be. This is very poetic, profound as well. In the battle of realizing self-grasping, the supreme elixir of immortality, the oral instructions on emptiness and compassion is hidden. Or is here there's a hides the supreme elixir of. So this is a very poetic, you see. In the battle of the realizing self-grasping, so no? Realizing self-grasping means realizing the non-existence of the self-grasping, means ego. When we have special insight, no? When we have special insight, critical insight, you see the self-grasping is not exist anywhere. Before realizing that, the self-grasping is in the barrel. No? See? So then, when you realize the non-existing nature of the self-grasping, then in that barrel, what exists? See, is the ambrosia, chime dujicho, the supreme ambrosia of the immorality. No? The supreme auxiliary of the immorality is now is in that barrel, replaced by realizing non-existing of self-grasping. When the self-grasping exists, as earlier mentioned, is ignorance. So that when the ignorance is there, then attachment, anger, pride, jealousy, so forth, all surrounds with that. And then there's a suffering for oneself because it's a confusion. We see things as a permanent, which is impermanent. No? We don't realize everything is impermanent. No? Then, because of that, all our mental afflictions surrounds. So when the self-grasping is not exist, when you realize that, and that self-grasping is replaced by the immorality of the supreme elixir, the ambrosia, then all the peace and happiness is just there. Say now, you see, no. So it's hidden the oral instruction on the emptiness and compassion. See, then manifests the realization of the emptiness and compassion. See? When there's a strong self-grasping, we have very little wisdom. We have very little compassion. See? When the self-grasping is reduced, you see the more others, sensual beings, how desperate they are. Like say, like a deer is chasing by the tiger. The deer is so desperate. The tiger is so powerful. How much the deer is suffering there and confused to where to hide. No. You can see the precisely suffering of the both. The tiger is desperate to catch the deer. He has so much fear that he cannot catch the deer. And the deer has such a suffering, fear. The tiger can any time will catch and kill him. So both, you see, because they both has a self-grasping. The tiger has a self-grasping, to him to have all this, to eat flesh, to enjoy the flesh. And the deer has a self-grasping, has such a fear attaching to himself, losing the life. Look at this. In the samsara, just meditate on this, this is just example. In the world, in the samsara, all the politicians, all the business people working in the high techs, everyone is like that nature. How much suffering is there, So if these are replaced by this reducing self-grasping, replaced by the wisdom, and then the compassion manifests, and slowly realizing the emptiness, how much great wisdom, peace is there, harmony is there. Look at this. So this is the individual journey. It's the individual responsibilities. That's why we need to share this wisdom to others. If there anybody who is interested, see, simply open this spot of grasping, and it means, that what is saying is, so when that say simply is open the spot of the grasping and attachment, and drink the elixir of the unmistaking natural state. My devoted students, was giving that now instruction. So you say, drink the right, drink the ambrosia, the wisdom, the compassion. So don't drink the poison of the self-grasping ignorance, and meditate on this practice. You see. So look at this, reflect to yourself, read these teachings. These are very short, but pit instruction. All the profound messages are there. If you read Madhyamika Avatara, the huge text, the complete message is here now. Read, there's so many big books, but the essence is here, you see. So in our busy life, every day you read these, reflect on, meditate. Before you go to bed, before you go to work, reflect on this. Then the last one I think is okay. So I said this now, just as I've read, the drink, the elixir, the ambrosia of the unmistaken natural state. So now the last one is the unification of experience realization. It's the wisdom of all the Buddhas of the 3 times, you see. This, as I mentioned, experience and realizations. In Tibetan, Nyam and Tokpa say. Nyam, experience. You can experience something, but it may disappear. Like say, today I feel so good. Oh, this station is so wonderful. I feel so good. But then next day, it disappears. So it's experience. No. But if you realize that experience will not disappear because it's realized. So we have to have this unification, the experience and realizations. No. First, you need to have the experience, you see, to inspire yourself. Oh, these teachings are so precious. Oh, that gave me really great hope. I feel so good. You know, this is the way the life should be. Now, that itself is not enough. Now we have to realize. So realization comes from the experience. The experience comes from the reason, your study, your understanding, and reason. See, So as mentioned, this is not something, a religious training. It is something like a business, politician. This is the ultimate politics. Okay. This is the ultimate business, you see. You have the ultimate business. You do this business in your mountain, in the retreat. Okay. Then you can say, I have a successful business in the retreat of this practice. Make sense? You want to have a short break?
Yes, Rinpoche.
Next
Short break.
5-point Mahmud, the Sarah's instruction.
Sarah's instruction is next. So we'll take a break about 10-15 minutes.
Okay.
Before we take a break, I just noticed one of our translators is here.
Oh, wonderful.
Hello, Sean. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Yes, great. That did a wonderful, translation. Yes.
We cannot hear you. Hold on.
It's okay.
Yeah. So let's see if I can find you again. Let's see.
Yes. Hello, Rinpoche.
Yeah, yes.
Kashidele.
Beautiful translations.
I didn't work on this one, but I worked on the Saraha one. But I'm glad it's benefiting people.
Okay. Wonderful. Anyhow, very wonderful.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
So Sean is part of the team right now. There are 3 people. One in Kathmandu. And Sean is in Chiang Mai in Thailand. And then the other person is in Amdo. Yes, 2 Americans and 1 European. And so we thank you guys. And so, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for the teachings, Rinpoche.
Okay.
So we'll take a break now.
Okay. Om Banza Sato Samaya, Mano Balaya, Bandra Sato Tenoba, Dita Deto Membawa, Suto Kayo Membawa, Suko Kayo Anorado Membawa, Sorwasi de Meprayata, Sorwasi Sudame, Sedan Chiria, Kuru Hung, Ha, Ho, Bakawan. Sorwata Daga Dambardama Memo Dambardambawa, Ma Samaya Sato. Thank you.